Welcome to 3 Tips to Move Through Your Fear of Success. I'm Tasha, this is Brandon.
Hello.
We are Rules of Rebellion, and if you are new to our community, welcome. We're going to be talking about what it is that fear of success actually is, and then also 3 tips to start moving through it, because most of you have this. If you're in our community, you're a hyper-independent, overachieving people pleaser. This comes with the territory, and so we're going to be talking about that. If you identify with those things, let us know in the comments. But we're going to be digging into this a lot over the next couple of days as well, so if you are not already following us, make sure you follow us. If this brings you value today, share this to your stories, or share this to your friends, so that everybody can be in on the conversation and you can have more conversations with your people about these concepts. So, fear of success. Have you had fear of success before?
I've had a reluctance to success, I would say. I don't know that I've had a fear of it, because I think that would have required me to think about it intentionally in a way that for 18 years of being an alcoholic I did not have access to.
But after that? We intentionally, by the way, did not have these conversations before we got in here so we could have an authentic conversation with you.
So you could also see that if we can do this, so can you.
Tiny person said, called out immediately.
So I think...
Mm-hmm. Maybe we should have had the conversation.
No. I'm just thinking, I feel like I've had a fear of success in relationship to I'm signing myself onto a project. Do I think that I can do it? So that, I think, falls under the category of imposter syndrome a little more than it does a fear of success.
So would you say it's fear of success or fear of failure?
I don't think it was ever a fear of failure. It was just, I was just worried, was I going to be able to be as effective, as productive, as likable as I wanted to be in a role that maybe I wasn't as suited for, or I didn't have enough experience in. The nature of my previous life, I was taking on a lot of roles where it was understood that there were going to be a lot of unknowns before you even get there. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like I had the opportunity to fall back on this massive library of experiences for specific ideas. I had a library of experiences that I knew I was going to be able to mold into be able to doing the things that I wanted to do. And so I feel like there was more imposter syndrome than there was a fear of success, because to me, I was successful when I got the job. Because of the fact that I was doing...
You convinced them that you could do it?
Well, and it was I was working in an industry that was very cutthroat. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that I was asked, the fact that I was in the conversation, the fact that I was hired, that was a win. And then because we were working
so competitive.
Yeah, and because we were working in art, there was an understanding that most people didn't understand all the moving parts of how it was going to get done. I was just part
of the job.
Yeah, it was part of the job. And so success for me was actually signing on for the job. What you and I were talking about before this call started was my version of success as demonstrated to me growing up was money and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Who else has that? Because I had that as well. Money and having lots of it and continuously working towards it was how you knew you were on your path to success, or you had achieved success.
Well, and everything had to be new. In order for it to count, everything. So cars had to be new. Houses had to be new. Vacations had to be huge, and we had to be in hotels spending money, and we had to be going to restaurants spending real money. Success was not, I had a really great day, I'm going to go grab fast food and I'm going to go watch a fun movie with friends. That was normal. And this is one of the things that you and I were talking about also before we got on this, was because of the fact the way in which I was raised, but also I was an alcoholic for 18 years, Tasha kept asking me, my version of success being able to party after doing something, and for
me that seems like it. We're coming from these opposite perspectives. And those of you who are new to us, my default mode is work, and Brandon's default mode for many years was play. And so we've always had this kind of polar opposite, bringing each other to the middle experience. And my perception of someone who was drinking all the time when I was not, and I was overworking, was that must be partying, and that's not how it works when you're an alcoholic.
No,
not necessarily.
Drinking and partying was a foregone conclusion. It was an expected part of every day. Mm-hmm. And so that didn't give me an opportunity to say, you've been successful because you're taking time to do this thing. It was the thing that happened next. And the
it
way...
It wasn't a marker of success.
No.
Got
it was a marker of it's 4:00 in the afternoon and I'm done working.
Right.
Or it was a marker of it's Friday and so I can drink until Monday morning. Like, that was just a thing that happened next. So success for me was demonstrated by a lot of money being spent. I'm a minimalist for anybody who doesn't know us very well. And so I was really, really resistant to that idea of being successful equals money. But I never, because of being an alcoholic, because of trauma, I never took the time to decide, well, if this isn't success, then what is?
Right.
And for me, success kept looking like I keep getting the jobs and people keep being really impressed with me. And that job came with a lot of money, but because of the fact that I intrinsically did not like money and I did not want stuff, I would spend the money almost immediately in its entirety the minute that I got it.
So if you are... What are you laughing at?
You. Processing that.
I am. Hey, Kate. And Michelle. So if you identify with Brandon's version of success, let us know in the comments.
So your turn.
Yeah. So I definitely have, I think, 2 seasons of fear of success in my lifetime. One of them that was for sure having success and then people not liking me because in the world I was in, it was supposed to be sisterhood, and it was to some degree, but there was competitive nature because that's how the company was built.
It was sisterhood if you weren't making a lot of money.
Yes.
Like if you were in the company and you weren't making
a lot of money and those people were welcoming of you. Like if you fit into that mold.
Yeah. If you were in competition.
Well, and the thing is that, so anyway, my definition of success and my fear of success came from not being like them, but still having those achievements. So, and that's where it was so frustrating and so hard. And now that I know the ADHD and I know about my CPTSD patterns and all of those things, it makes sense looking back on why that was such an uncomfortable experience, but I kept pursuing it over and over and over again. I had this idea that once I was in that level, I was automatically going to be part of the club.
Oh, yeah.
And when I got there and I was not, I still felt like an outsider, still didn't know what I was supposed to do. And I've learned a lot about, unmasking in this process, but like, how do you dress and how do you say things and what are you supposed to buy with your money? Like I felt like in
like an alien.
Well, I felt like in Talladega Nights, like I don't know what to do with my hands, but it was my whole self.
Right.
Like, I didn't know what to do with the success, and so that was a ongoing problem as I kept achieving. I was in the top of the company within year 3 of being in the company and was there for another 10 years. So I was constantly battling this fear of success. But the more recent version of the fear of success actually just kind of wrapped up full circle for me about 8 months ago. When I was super successful in all of that, what ended up happening was I got so sick from, I know that you know this. I'm not.
No, I know where you're going.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Really? Tell me about that. Was it awful?
My efforts to achieve success and my daily habits and my mindset and all of these things pushing towards money being the definition of success, and my achievements and the accolades and the recognition and the awards for having financial success, not only just for my personal sales, but also for our recruiting, for our team and our team numbers, multi-million-dollar team. That's a big accomplishment for a team leader. All of that led to me not being able to have any of it. Right. And so after I got diagnosed with ME, CFS, and a bunch of other stuff, and we got out of the thick of the weeds of it, and I started rebuilding just my sense of self and rebuilding our life and our family and our relationship and all of those things. Success beyond those things, success in business was terrifying. Yeah. Because to me, being successful in business, in my experience, has meant you lose relationships, you lose your health, you lose the people that you care about, the people that you were successful with abandon you. And so I was terrified to push myself or stretch to reach any of these financial or business goals, because that has meant to me so much loss. And so fear of success for me and so many of our clients is fear of loss of time, loss of energy, loss of resources, loss of relationships, loss of identity. And so the fear of success for me has gone from fear of having money and being part of a group that I didn't really fit into, to fear of losing everything I actually care about in pursuit of money. I think one of the interesting things about losing relationships because of success for you was losing relationships after having success and that success killing you.
while you were talking, I realized one of the things that I probably do clock as being a fear of success is when you started to explore your creative side and your creative endeavors, there was a fear that I had, and I still sometimes work through, of because of the fact that I've spent my entire adult life as a professional artist, outperforming you in a creative field. And because of the fact that I am a people pleaser for everybody who is a people pleaser, the idea
like
of
the rest of us here,
of me outperforming you and that potentially stifling you in your growth of creating, because I know you're such a creative person and I so desperately want you to just go do the fucking things that you have been talking about wanting to do your entire life, but because of the fact that it seemed either frivolous or it seemed like a luxury, you haven't engaged in it. It's easy for me to just decide today I'm going to make things.
Yeah.
And so I've worried about me, like, you want to write a book. I know that I'm a good writer, and I'm worried that if I start writing and it's successful, that it's going to give you permission to not do that. And that makes me scared because I want to see what you're going to do.
This is the difference between our versions of perfectionism too. My perfectionism comes from my within, I've never been a competitive person with other people. I've always wanted to beat my best and better than I did yesterday, and like my personal best, whereas your perfectionism was a lot of comparison because of the nature of your environment. You were put in position to compete with people you should have never been competing with as a child. And so, so when I hear you say things like that, and even with some of our content, that your content performs better than mine in terms of,
and that bothers the shit out of me.
And I'm like, stop it. This is good for everybody. This is good for people who are consuming it and getting the ideas. And so this fear of success piece is something that we're constantly working through because it's ingrained in your nervous system, and it requires you to consciously, actively stay engaged with the direction that you want to be pointing in.
Well, in the direction you want to be pointing in, and what scares me is that for all of you who don't know, there was a reel that Tasha posted that it was just me talking. Like, I did no fucking work but open my mouth, and then and then it got put on social media, and it went fucking crazy. And one of the things that I was worried about, which kind of sort of ish happened a little bit, was you saw that happened, and you were like, cool, now I can go make this other fucking content in a different way, because the workload of getting eyes on us was taken up by you doing that thing. And so I worry that like stuff like that is going to keep you from feeling like you need to, or have the space, or even want to say the very blunt, very bold things that I know.
It gives me more permission to say those things. It still requires me to work through my nervous system, dysregulation, and the fear of vulnerability, and the fear of being judged that I have to do because of my own trauma. But you saying bold things gives me permission to say bold things. It's like you are kind of working on the path in front of me to kind of flatten the weeds.
Well, I need a fucking break, so I'm gonna need you to be bold and abrasive so that I cannot.
Well, and that's one of the things. People who know me in person, and even our coaching clients in the village and our private coaching clients, see a much more crass sometimes, and also much more unapologetic version of me. And I'm gaining nervous system regulation practices. I'm gaining safety and a sense of security and saying what I want to say publicly without having to wonder if it's going to be misinterpreted, if it's going to be misunderstood, if it's going to be misconstrued, and all of those things, because that's my personal trauma that I'm working through. So, getting back to our point.
What? We had a point?
Fear of success, 3 tips to move through it.
Okay. Go.
First tip is you have got to make sure that you're actually using the word success as something that you want to work towards. Because one of two things can happen. If you're working towards this thing called success, and it's not something you actually want, because that is not what success looks like for you, or that's not something you want, then you're not going to actually take action. You're just going to beat yourself up for not doing the things you're supposed to do.
Well, I was going to say, and this is when, not that we believe this, but this is when people are talking about self-sabotage, that's one of the places that it will start to show up. If success doesn't mean anything to you. But we also know that in order to be a part of this world, we have to work our asses off to survive. That is where the concept of self-sabotage kind of fits into the success story.
So you have to define your definition of success in this season of your life, because you may have done this work before. You may have done this work of really getting clear about what success meant for you in a previous season of your life, and it may not be accurate anymore. Success to me was having really good sales in that direct sales company. Success was having a really big team, or not a big team, a really productive team that was really cohesive, and I did that successfully. That's not what I define as success anymore. My success definition relies more on how I'm showing up to my relationships. Honestly, the biggest factor of my definition of success right now is how I'm parenting, because I know I have limited time and I missed a lot of time with that in the past. And so that's really the primary focus for my definition of success right now. But if you don't know what that is for you, and you're just doing what you've always done, or you're doing what you were taught and modeled from your parents or from mentors or whatever, you're going to not be all in. You're going to really limit yourself on taking action, and then you're going to have all these other things that are not allowing you to reach that level of success, and then you're going to write false stories about what you're capable of.
And this is one of those places where if you're making money, like if you have a job and you're making money, even if the money doesn't go much further than paying rent and paying the bills and buying food, but if you are making money and you're not happy, this is an opportunity for you to ask yourself, it may not have anything to do with your job. Maybe your job is perfectly fine, but the fact that you are making money and it isn't going to the places that you want to go, or it's not providing you with a life that you want to have, this is an opportunity to ask yourself, do I feel successful? Because the reality is if you get up in the morning and you're going to go in some way, shape, or form, you are doing something to provide for yourself, your partner, your family, a life that is stable and safe, and you're not happy, then you genuinely don't feel successful, whether you are aware of it or not. And so being able to take those feelings of discomfort and frustration and stagnation and ask yourself, like, am I successful? Am I successful according to who? Mm-hmm. Is really, I think, the question mm-hmm. that needs to be dug into there. Because if you're doing the things and you're making yourself a safe environment, then success lives in that somewhere, somehow, just maybe not how you think.
Hey, Santina. So the first tip is to actually give yourself the opportunity to maybe set a timer for 10 minutes and write out, what does success look like according to how you grew up? What did you see success look like in your young childhood, being a teenager, early 20s? Who was demonstrating what success looked like by what they were saying, by what they were doing? And does that actually jive with how you want to experience your day-to-day life? Is money important to you? I'm not about to tell you that money is not part of our success definition, because you need money to survive. And being wealthy is a gift to you and everyone around you, because you can be more generous, you can be more supportive. But it's not the only definition of success for me any longer. So the first tip is to give yourself the time and the space to really get clear about where your original definitions of success came from, what it looked like, and what people told you was right and wrong about that idea of success, and then you can start digging into whether that's actually true for you. The second tip is, you are not going to be able to identify it, define it, move towards it, consistently create habits towards it, develop the skills, maintain the environment, if you don't have nervous system regulation as a habit. It's just not going to happen. If you were part of our community, you were part of this overachieving, people-pleasing, hyper-independent, what is the fourth one? Hyper-independent, overachieving, picky. If you're one of us, you're going to have constant dysregulation. Your nervous system is going to be on high alert, because that's how it was wired. And so when you are thinking about success and the things you have to do to achieve it, the things you are forcing yourself to do that maybe aren't aligned, your nervous system is constantly being activated, which means you don't have access to the part of your brain that's going to allow you to make aligned decisions for the long-term vision versus the immediate distress that you're feeling in the moment. So the second tip is, we're going to each give you a nervous system regulation practice. You were the one that suggested.
No, you were right up here, and I was like, am I doing it right now? I'm not regulated.
So we're going to give you each a nervous system regulation practice right now that we use, that you can try and see if these work for you. Not every regulation practice or technique works for everyone, so it's important to keep rotating through, trying them out at different times of your life, different times of you feeling stress or activation. You want to do the bilateral stimulation
So we have, there are a lot of different ways you can regulate your nervous system. And we have actually a really, very like small consumable mini course training class, the Regulated AF.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge of 10 nervous system regulation practices. If you want that, DM us and we will send you a link for it. It's $25. But not every one of them, like Tasha says, works for everybody. For me, this body needs, I think, to be jarred more often, to be snapped out of whatever the hell I have going on. So bilateral stimulation works for me almost every single time. And so what I do is if I'm sitting and I can't get up and move, because movement is actually the thing that works for me the most, is I just like 2 hands across the shoulders and then squeeze my arms and I go down my whole body and then I do my legs and then I like squeeze on my feet and I rub my feet and I do that, and as I'm doing that I'm just like slowly breathing. I'm not intentionally breathing in one way or another because sometimes that stresses me out and I feel like I forgot how to breathe and I'm gonna die.
You're doing it right?
Yeah, and so I just sit here and squeeze and I kind of like give myself a hug, and when if I do that for long, I do that for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then I check in with myself, and then if I need to do more, I'll do a little more, or like I said, I get up and I move around, and just the act of walking is bilateral stimulation as well.
So that's one technique to use when you feel activated. Activated is a heightened sense of stress or nervousness or anxiety. Ash, we're going to come back to talk about that in just a second. The other technique you can use, and some people have some resistance towards breath work because of past experiences. So if that is you, this may not be something you want to try. But for those of us who do want to change how our breathing works, nervous system regulation and your nervous system operates, no matter what technique you use to get to this state, what's going to ultimately happen is your exhale is going to be longer than your inhale, because that's the sign that your body is at homeostasis. And so what we can do is to start slowly without forcing. Breathe in 4, hold it for 7, and then exhale 8. The intention, and there's lots of different variations in terms of the numbers, the counting.
I was going to say, can we do less than 7? Because 7 stresses me out.
Well, this isn't your practice. You have to do yours. 7 is part of the process, is it jolts your nervous system to not jump into exhaling too hard. And so it helps you slow down. But so there's lots of different counts you can use. The goal is to have your exhale be longer than your inhale, because that tells your nervous system, tells your body that you're safe. So you breathe in for 4, slowly without forcing. Hold it for 7. And then slowly exhale 8. You do that a couple times. Have you breathed?
Yeah. I'm gonna pass out.
You do that a couple times, and that is a practice you can do when you're in a meeting, when you're in a conversation with someone where there's confrontation and you're feeling stressed and anxious about it, when you're putting a boundary in place, and that's something that's hard for you. So this is a really powerful shift that you can make. I also do this in bed before I go to sleep at night. I do this in bed when I first wake up in the morning, because my nervous system is working through decades of dysregulation. So those are 2 tips to start moving towards being able to identify success and then take aligned action towards it. The third tip we want to give you is, in terms of overcoming the fear of success, the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you have new boundaries in place.
I love boundaries.
I love boundaries too. I used to not, because I was so scared of them, but boundaries are the way in which you help people understand how you are going to exist in the space so that you feel safe mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, all of those things. And so the first thing that you can do when it comes to boundaries is look at what it is that is happening in your life, whether it's you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough energy, you feel like you're overstimulated, and identify what those things are. Even if you just use the last 24 hours to kind of reflect on and say, what do I wish I had more of? That usually is the indication that there's a boundary that's necessary. Because if you wish you had more of it, that means you don't have enough of it, which means you're giving it away. Welcome to being an overachieving people pleaser.
I was going to say, and people pleasers, you do actually wish that you had more of something. There are plenty of times when we're talking to clients and they're like, I don't really want anything. Bullshit. You absolutely want something. It's just been so unsafe and so uncomfortable for you to acknowledge it, let alone say it to any other human being other than yourself in a mirror or while you're crying as you go to sleep because you're so exhausted. So it's really important to acknowledge you do wish you had things. And we also, when it comes to boundaries, doesn't mean that we have to put 100 boundaries in place because all of a sudden we're like, oh, I'm allowed to wish shit. Well, now every day, all day is a boundary all of a sudden. And so the other key to boundaries is not going all the way to the other side of the pendulum when you've had none, because that's unmanageable.
That requires nervous system regulation also.
Yes,
so
as well.
Go back to tip number 2 and keep doing that. So the 3 tips we are talking about today for getting through the fear of success. One is making sure you're clear about what success actually means to you and how you've been operating with that in relationship to your efforts and your energy and your attention to be able to do that. The next tip was to do nervous system regulation as a practice and ongoing habit. We gave you two different techniques, bilateral stimulation and then 4-7-8 breathing. And the third one is boundaries, getting clear about what you wish you had more of and letting that awareness perpetuate and propel you towards putting new boundaries in place, communicating what you actually need to have more of that thing in your life by just looking at the last 24, 48 hours to say, what do I wish I had more of? Sleep, time, money, food, space, quiet, whatever it is.
If you are either new to the boundary conversation or you just aren't sure what to do with this chapter of boundaries for yourself, we have a masterclass coming up in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to be talking about it in emails, so check your emails for those over the next couple of weeks, because we love talking about boundaries, and we have a masterclass where we really break it down into actually step-by-step process of creating boundaries that are your own within your own unique life circumstances, and it's really important to take your life into account when you're doing these things.
And your nervous system.
Yes.
That's the piece that's missing from every boundaries conversation that's out there. Okay, we have one question or one comment. I want to make sure we touch on that, and then we're going to wrap up. We almost did it in less than half an hour. So I get so frustrated when people insist that I'm self-sabotaging or suffering from imposter syndrome when I'm actually just working towards a definition of success they don't share. Yes, Ash, we get that. And when people don't believe me about that, I've never found a way to get them to change their mind. So here is the gift that I'm going to pass along to you that I wish someone had been able to convey to me in a way that I could receive it 25 years ago. Your job is not to get them to understand you and understand why you are doing the things you're doing in your life. Your job is to do your life so fully and unapologetically, authentically you, that they can't do anything but be inspired by that. And if they choose to be resistant to that, they choose to continuously tell you what they should do and what you should do and how you're not doing it right. 1, you need to limit the interaction and the access they have to you. And 2, just feel the compassion for this person who's so stuck in this rigidity of this one definition of being successful, this one definition of being a person, this one definition of being whatever. And do not give your energy and your time and your attention to trying to change their mind. People have been telling the world they're playing small and that they don't live up to their potential and all of these things because they do not have this hyper productivity focused existence. Because those of you who are creatives, those of you who are craving to live a creative lifestyle, and your meaning and your purpose and your connection is to other people or to art, that is not your focus. Producing is not your focus. People who are telling you that you're suffering from something or you're self-sabotaging don't understand the nuance of humanity being different, of people being unique in and of themselves, their purpose, their soul's self-expression, all of those things. So you're not going to ever find a way to change their mind because they are not open to changing their mind. So don't waste your time and energy on it and keep doing you. If you feel really good about your definition of success and you feel really solid in how you're going about it, 1, don't share it with these people anymore. Like, don't waste your time sharing that. Those people do not meet the eligibility requirements to be in your life or to have access to that part of you. And to give yourself the gift to focusing your energy and attention on something that's actually move you forward, because you trying to change their mind is not helping you or them.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only thing that I'm going to add to that is when we try to convince anybody of anything, we immediately put them on the defensive so that they can try to convince us of why they feel like they're so right. And so if these are relationships that you genuinely care about, either maintaining or adjusting so that it is something that you can still care about, then 100% find ways to not talk about what you're doing. Find common threads between you two so that you can, or you many, so that you can continue to have a relationship that's fulfilling, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what you feel you are working towards success in. Mm-hmm. Because that is just going to be more and more and more evidence for you that this relationship can't make it if you're only talking about one singular thing, which is why I feel the way that I do about the things that I do. So boundaries and nervous system regulation also.
For the win. all the time. So we hope that you found value in today's conversation. Thanks for adding in your 2 cents and sharing your experiences. Please share this with anybody in your circle, your network, if you think they would find this valuable, if you enjoyed it, and share with them what in particular you liked about it, because that makes it easier for people to say yes to learning something new. And if you have questions about this or anything else that we talk about here at Rules of Rebellion, feel free to message us, shoot us a DM, or leave a message in the comment section. We'll circle back around the next couple days. Thanks for being here. That's it.
I think that's it.
We'll see you again tomorrow.
Absolutely. Have a good day, guys.
Bye, friends.